"Why are you so sad?" asked the little girl mid-flight. The CEO laughed, then cried for the first time in years. "Mister, why are you so sad? My mama says people who look at clouds like that are trying to find someone they lost." Thatcher Brennan froze. His hand, halfway to his scotch, hovered in midair. He'd been staring out the airplane window for the better part of an hour, watching the endless white below, thinking no one noticed, thinking no one cared. He turned slowly to find a little girl standing in the aisle beside his first-class seat. 4 years old, maybe. Pigtails tied with red ribbons, a small backpack shaped like a ladybug. Her eyes, enormous and earnest, studied him like he was a puzzle she was determined to solve. "I'm not sad," he said automatically, his CEO voice smooth and practiced. "I'm just thinking." "That's what sad people say," she replied matter-of-factly. "You have thinking sad eyes. My mama has them sometimes too." Thatcher blinked. Something inside him, something he'd kept locked away for 3 years, shifted. He tried to smile, but it came out wrong, brittle. And then, inexplicably, he laughed. Not a polished boardroom laugh, a real one, broken and hollow, and somehow honest. The little girl tilted her head. "See? You're laughing, crying. That's when the sad gets too big to hide anymore." And just like that, Thatcher Brennan, founder of a tech empire worth billions, man who'd stood unflinching through hostile takeovers and media firestorms, felt tears burn his eyes for the first time since his younger brother died. 40 minutes earlier, Thatcher had boarded the red-eye from Seattle to Boston in silence. Another business trip, another hotel room, another set of meetings where he'd smile and shake hands and close deals while feeling absolutely nothing. 3 years ago, his brother Camden, 25, brilliant, reckless Camden, died in a car accident. Thatcher had been in Tokyo when he got the call. He'd flown home, delivered the eulogy, settled the estate, and returned to work in 1 week. People called him strong, resilient. What they didn't see was the numbness that had settled into his bones like concrete. He'd stopped feeling things, stopped crying, stopped caring about anything that wasn't measurable in profit margins or market shares, until a 4-year-old stranger asked him why he was sad. A woman appeared in the aisle. Late 20s, tired eyes, soft smile. "Juniper Brennan, you cannot just wander around bothering people," she said gently, scooping the little girl up. She glanced at Thatcher apologetically. "I'm so sorry. She's overly perceptive and has zero concept of personal boundaries." "Juniper Brennan?" he said, his voice strange. "Her last name is Brennan?" The woman nodded. "I'm Fallon Brennan. Juniper's my daughter. Common last name, I know." Thatcher stared at them, at this little girl with his brother's last name, asking questions Camden would have asked. Camden, who'd always seen through Thatcher's walls, who'd called him out every time he pretended to be fine. "She's right," he said quietly. "I am sad." Fallon's expression softened. She glanced at the empty seat beside him. He'd bought both seats for privacy. Would you mind if we sat with you for a bit? Juniper's been restless, and I think she'd settle better with a conversation." He should have said no, should have retreated behind his usual walls. Instead, he nodded. Juniper climbed into the seat beside him, legs swinging. "What's your name?" "Thatcher." "That's a fancy name, like a prince." She pulled a coloring book from her backpack. "Do you like coloring? Mama says it helps when you're sad." "I haven't colored in a long time," Thatcher admitted. "Then you should try," Juniper said seriously, handing him a blue crayon. "Blue is for when you miss someone. Yellow is for when you want to feel happy again." Thatcher took the crayon. His hand trembled slightly. "What if you don't remember how to feel happy?" Juniper looked up at him with those impossibly wise eyes. "Then you color yellow until you remember." Fallon watched quietly, her own eyes glistening. Juniper's father passed away when she was 2. Cancer. She doesn't remember him, but she's learned to spot sadness in others. I think she's trying to help people feel less alone." Thatcher's throat tightened. "I lost my brother 3 years ago. Car accident. He was 25. I'm so sorry. I haven't cried since the funeral. I don't know why. I just stopped feeling anything." "Grief does that sometimes," Fallon said gently. "It convinces us that numbness is safer than pain. But numbness isn't living, it's just waiting." "Waiting for what?" Thatcher asked, his voice breaking. "For someone to remind you it's okay to feel again, even when it hurts." They talked for 2 hours about Camden, his terrible jokes, his love of midnight adventures, the way he always known when Thatcher was drowning in work and would show up with takeout and bad movies. About Fallon's husband, Marcus, a teacher who'd faced his terminal diagnosis with grace, who'd recorded video messages for Juniper to watch as she grew up. He told her that sadness was just love with nowhere to go, that it was okay to be sad because it meant she'd loved someone worth missing. Thatcher felt something crack wide open inside him. "Camden told me that emotions weren't weakness, that I didn't have to be invincible all the time." He laughed bitterly. "I never listened, and now he's gone, and I can't tell him he was right." Juniper, who had been quietly coloring, looked up. "But you can tell him in your heart. That's what Mama says. When people go away, they live in the quiet places inside us, and they hear us when we talk to them there." Thatcher stared at this tiny, profound human, and then he did something he hadn't done in 3 years. He cried. Not politely, not quietly. He put his face in his hands and sobbed, for Camden, for the years he'd wasted being numb, for the brother he'd never see again. Juniper climbed into his lap without asking and wrapped her small arms around him. "It's okay," she whispered. "Crying means the sad is coming out, so the happy can find room again." And Fallon's hand found his shoulder, steady and kind, and Thatcher Brennan, who'd spent 3 years building walls, let 2 strangers hold him together while he fell apart. When the plane landed, Thatcher didn't want to say goodbye. For the first time in years, he felt human again, raw and exhausted and real. "Thank you," he said to Fallon. "I don't know how to explain it, but you both gave me something back tonight, something I thought I'd lost forever." "You never lost it," Fallon said gently. "You just needed someone to remind you where to look." Juniper handed him a drawing, a stick figure man colored in blue and yellow, surrounded by hearts. "This is you. Now you have to remember to use both colors, okay? Not just the sad one." Thatcher knelt down, eye level with her. "You're the bravest person I've ever met, Juniper. Thank you for asking me why I was sad. Thank you for seeing me." "You're welcome," she said simply. "Will you be okay now?" He smiled, a real smile, fragile but genuine. "I think I'm going to try to be." 3 months later, Thatcher stood at Camden's grave for the first time since the funeral. He brought yellow flowers. He talked about the little girl on the plane who'd broken through his walls with one simple question. He cried, and this time it didn't feel like drowning. It felt like release. He started a foundation in Camden's name, supporting grief counseling for families, especially children who'd lost parents. He reached out to Fallon, who became a consultant, helping design programs rooted in empathy and connection. And once a month, he had lunch with Juniper, who always brought her coloring book, and asked him if he was remembering to use yellow. "I am," he'd tell her, "thanks to you." Because sometimes the people who save us aren't the ones with answers. They're the ones who ask the right questions, who see our sadness and don't turn away, who remind us that it's okay to feel broken, because that's how the light gets in. Mr. Thatcher, asked Juniper during one of those lunches, are you still thinking sad sometimes? Sometimes, he admitted, but now I know that's okay, because sadness means I loved someone worth missing, and that's not something to hide from, it's something to honor. Juniper smiled, handing him a yellow crayon. Then let's color something happy today. And for the first time in years, Thatcher did. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, subscribe, and comment.